see. I can remodel them.
About a 1-minute warning, everybody.
Maybe they parked in front of the fitness center.
They should park right here.
Tracy's not here.
The fire lane.
Somebody would go first.
It's funny.
So.
It's only like 8 people
or something where they have a whole plat. Then your selection is not that much.
Yeah.
That is the quality.
Yeah, I just. For now, we're just Friday, and maybe it'll get a little higher, maybe we'll see.
I never did.
Get parked.
Is that why you were delayed down there?
No.
There's hooks on the medium one.
You get run around without bands on?
Can I leave now?
You move to adjourn the first 5 seconds.
Oh, are you gonna let me move to adjourn tonight?
You got it. It's on you. You got it.
Tonight, at the end. All right, okay, you got it. Or you just kept them up.
So this is your last meeting. Have a good kick on that.
Learn it.
Yeah. Our next one to be.
Okay.
So we're canceling that one?
Talking to my camera in the sky here, make sure he's going. Okay, everybody. Hey, just for future reference, so everybody knows, I've asked our IT people to start tape about a minute before we actually start. So hope that didn't. And just a reminder to everybody, because of our new audio-visual setup, the camera sees everything, and the microphone also hears everything. So even your casual aside in the back will be recorded for posterity and future amusement.
I didn't really mean what
We know that, Larry.
They J.W. Whitten did that.
Yeah, that's the one. Okay, so with that, we'll call the meeting of December 10th, 2019, the City Council of Yelm, Washington to order, and do so by pledging allegiance to our country and our flag. Juliana, do you want to lead us? No, I didn't think so. I pledge allegiance to the flag
of the United States of America
and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God,
indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
We'll have the clerk call the roll, please.
Council members E.J. Curry. Here. Molly Carmody. Here. Cody Colt.
Here.
Ted Stillwell.
Here.
Lucy Wood.
Here.
Joe DePinto.
Here.
Terry Kaminsky. J. David Foster.
Here. City Clerk Lori
Here.
Lucas. Here.
Here.
Okay. All here. Good. The next step would be to approve our agenda. I have 2 modifications I'd like the council to consider. We have a resolution in support of the school levy on new business. We'd like to move that down to the point in time when which the Tracy Choate will be here. She's stuck in traffic, imagine that, trying to be here, and she'd like very much to be here for that. So if we could move that down. Also, you'll notice that we put the, under new business, the B, mid-biennial budget amendment should actually be under old business, so we would attend to that first and open the public hearing at that time and so forth. So with those amendments to the agenda,
Move to approve.
Second.
all in favor? Aye. Okay, and we now have our amended roadmap. So, we get to go to, I probably just blew Andrew's ears out. Sorry, Andrew. We get to go to one of our favorite things that we do every month during the school year. And that is to recognize one of our great students from Yelm Community Schools, the high school in particular. We do this in partnership with the schools. They help pick the student, and then with the Rotary Club of Yelm, who helps also pick the student of the month. And each month during the school year, one student is chosen to represent and be acknowledged. And at the end of the year, one of those is chosen as the student of the year and are celebrated like at Christmas in the Park and so forth. I'm sorry, John. You. And so, Alicia, if you would stand, please, in the spotlight. Right here? Yes, please. I'm going to not ask you to sing the school song. I'm going to ask that you listen carefully to what the people said about you as you listen in as well. The Rotary Club of Yelm and the City of Yelm are honored to announce our November 2019 Student of the Month, Alicia Nelson. Alicia is an outstanding senior with endless positive attitude and a contagious passion for helping others. This FFA Vice President is always willing to go the extra mile, working countless hours after school with the FFA program. He volunteers with many community service activities, such as the FFA plant sale, Adopt a Family, the community garden, and so much more. Alicia greatly enjoys helping with inclusion in the classroom and partnering with Yelm High School life skills students in the greenhouse class to help them complete assignments. This future special education teacher makes our community very proud. Congratulations, Alicia. As if that wasn't embarrassing enough, you come up here and the council all stands. And we're going to stand right here, and if you guys split the difference, we'll hold this cool plaque. We have to help you. Everybody, that's right. And if you look at Ms. Pablo, and put your smiles on. And now we should look one at Mom.
Thank you.
And one at Dad. Okay, we got it all. Oh, and she's one at Eddie. You want a selfie? You want to take a selfie?
Oh, no, I'm good.
Speech?
Prepare one.
Congratulations.
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 Thank you.
Good job.
Thank you. Good job.
And good job.
Thank you.
Alicia. And now we know also, thank you to parents because we know great students start with great families, and we'll see her little sister here in how many years?
Well, she starts kindergarten next year.
All right, we'll be looking for her. So, and you're welcome to stay as long as you want, which we understand you as a student have a lot of stuff going on, so get out whenever you want to. Welcome. Now, it gives me great pleasure to go on to something that we have not done before this council, and we're so excited to do it, and that's to welcome 2 new members into our city. They've been waiting for this moment for a long time, and this is a great representation of how a citizen can make things happen on their own. Ms. Furman wanted to be in the city limits. She lived right on the border of our city limits, as council knows, but I'm doing this for history. And she was already on city water, and yet could not vote in our elections, couldn't be part of the process because of the way the boundaries work. But being within our urban growth area and having already been on water, she met all the qualifications, so she simply had to appeal to the city to allow this annexation to happen. And we told her, well, you have to get your neighbors in on this. And she brought one of them with her. And so the 5 neighbors agreed to be annexed into the city. We went through a series of machinations to get this done. It bogged down at the county level a little bit. But at the end of the day, at this point, I would like to proudly welcome Ms. Debbie Furman and Ms. Kathy Rewerts into the city of Yelm officially. And come on up here and get your packets and be welcome. What they have here is their letter of welcome and a little bit of the community guide and some other things. Oh, no checks like that.
So glad you're here. Welcome to the city.
Welcome to the city.
I did it again, Rhoda.
Exciting.
Welcome. We're excited. Yelm.
Don't wait, we can invoke that.
Kathy,
Yelm.
official letter and a welcome packet and a welcome citizen. Very welcome. Here is your packet. Now, yeah, we'll expect to see your applications for city council next, right?
Or at least the tree board.
And maybe the tree board. Let's start off easy. Yeah.
Take over.
Or you could do the historic commission.
There were 3 others who were brought into the city. They weren't able to show tonight, and we will mail their packets and get that off to them. And also thank you to Tammy Merriman, who helped considerably work us through the steps to get us, because we hadn't done this for a while, so there was some things we had to dust off. So nicely done. We now get to the point in the meeting where we have the opportunity for public comment. If anybody would like to address the City Council on matters on or off the agenda, now would be the time. Okay, thank you. And we have other things that are on the agenda that will come up here in a little bit. So now we have the consent agenda, which is basically the minutes from the November 26th and December 3rd meetings.
To approve the consent agenda?
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Excellent. And so now, according to our amended agenda, we'll go into,
6C.
yeah, I was thinking we put the old business, but you're right. So let's do the new business first. Thank you, Molly. We will go into 6C, which is ordinance 1057, and Tammy Merriman will present.
Thank you. Good evening, Mayor and Council. Before you tonight is, look at the right piece of paper here, Ordinance 1057, which is an amendment to the Unified Development Code, Title 18 of the Yelm Municipal Code. In 2019, the Yelm Planning Commission was tasked to review the Unified Development Code to make sure that we were in compliance with the Federal Communications Commission's rulings regarding wireless communication facilities, and to take a look at our code to see if there was anything we could do to encourage more affordable housing within the city of Yelm. The Planning Commission did this review and found a couple items, and their findings are listed in your staff report. I won't read them word for word, but I'll kind of go some of the highlights. And during the review, they found in regards to wireless communication facilities that our processes did not clarify the application process for wireless communication facilities that are different than our standard land use review processes. And that we also did not have any design standards for the new small cell broadband wireless that we've been hearing about, which are located within city right-of-ways on existing utility poles before. In regards to affordable housing, the Planning Commission's review and findings were that at first they looked at the comprehensive plan goal regarding housing, and that goal was to encourage affordable housing, provide a variety of densities and housing types. And then they also looked at what was affordable housing. One of the things they found in this beginning of this review was that almost half of our multifamily housing right now is low income or subsidized housing. To be exact, 40% of our multifamily dwelling units are low income or subsidized housing. In looking at our development code, they decided that in order to do a review for specific low-income housing or subsidized housing, or to look into the programs that are offered for tax rebates and so forth, and tax incentives for low-income and extremely low-income, that a more in-depth needs analysis should be done to determine what the actual vacancy rates are in the city, what the city's current needs are, and then if we do implement any of those programs, what the impacts to financial and our revenues would be. So they determined that in this review, we would look at our code for what we could do within the code to help meet that comprehensive goal of the variety of housing types. What they found were the current market trends on the home sales, where that homes were selling in ranges that were not affordable to what is called working class wages or just the general public. They found that most of the residential developments within the city didn't actually build out to their maximum density allowed. They found that the range of housing types could help provide more affordable homes if they had smaller homes, townhomes, and other smaller multifamily projects. And then they also looked at what might be some barriers that would prevent this type of housing, and found that the majority of the barriers in building these are not related to our code. They're actually barriers, and you'll find it later in the staff report in the table, that it is land cost, building cost, labor cost, and the restrictions in financing for that type of housing. Putting all of that in place, then they decided what can we do within our code to help encourage this type of housing. So what they came up with for encouraging the affordable housing was to update our residential zoning chapters to provide density bonuses when those folks do provide the variety of housing types. to reduce setbacks in our central business district to help achieve the accessory dwelling units within the city. Accessory dwelling units are a second unit either attached to or separate from the home. To allow multifamily, to require multifamily developments in our high density zones as opposed to allowing single family in those zones. And then reduce minimum parking requirements for multifamily housing when they do 4 or more units. The reduction in parking would be based on the number of parking stalls provided within the multifamily housing. The commission did discuss but chose not to propose increasing a minimum density requirement in our zones. So instead of having the variety of, in our R6 zone, having a minimum of 3 units per acre and a maximum of 6, of actually requiring 6 units per acre, they wanted to make sure that we had that option to not discourage development within the city. Attached to the staff report is a map kind of showing a sample of our densities and what we've achieved and the types of housing or the multifamily housing that were subsidized or market rate apartments. And it also has the matrix of options that the Planning Commission did review in the affordable housing. Wanted to look into a little further. The Planning Commission held several open meetings. They held an open house at the community center and a public hearing here at City Hall. After they considered all of public comment, they put their recommendations down in the draft that you have, the red line draft of our municipal code, and recommend that City Council take them under consideration for adoption. I'd be happy to answer questions if you have them.
Thank you. Stakeholders were reached out to regarding the cellular fixtures, or were there any?
Just the meeting notices. I didn't reach out specifically. However, I did work with other planners in Thurston County and specifically with Tumwater on what they went through and their wireless communication facilities ordinance, or work with their attorneys and with the wireless communication group stakeholders, and then compared their changes to ours and found where our code was lacking and basically incorporated what we felt matched our needs in the city.
Thank you.
So Tammy went over all of this with the committee, or the Community and Economic Development Subcommittee. I think it was last week, and we all asked a lot of questions, and I think we all feel pretty comfortable with changes that have been suggested by the Planning Commission. We're good to go with that, just so you guys know.
Is there any conversations with the developers and their reaction to, as you mentioned, it sounds like it's more lucrative for them to build these the houses that are in demand that people want to spend more money on. I mean, don't get me wrong, I understand the point you're making. It's a valid point. But I'm curious if we reached out and spoke with those folks and got any feedback.
I did email all of the local builders that build in the city of Yelm currently, and developers that we've worked with in the past that have been active in development, maybe not currently today, but in the past, and real estate agents that I've been in contact in the many years I've been here, invited them to the meeting. We did have 6 developers show up to one of our meetings and discussed in great detail, specifically the townhouse development, the challenges they find with that prompted a lot of the changes in the code. And one of the items that the developer said on multifamily housing is it's a struggle to do more than a duplex, triplex, as opposed to doing a full-blown apartment complex of 50 or 60 units. The issue being that the cost and liability for those things are the same for a 4-unit as it would be for a 40. So if they're going to go to that type of expense for financing and regulation, that they would rather do the full-blown apartments as opposed to the kind of the smaller multifamily that we were trying to encourage. So they did talk about those financial issues that they deal with. But yes, we had a really good turnout, I believe, for the exciting unified development.
Real estate perspective.
As Molly said, we went through all the details during our subcommittee and pretty much in line with what we could do.
Thank you.
Entertain a motion.
That we authorize Mayor Foster to enact ordinance number 1057, amending the Title 18 Yelm Municipal Unified Development Code.
Any other discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Oh, again, good work.
Thank you very much.
Please ask for the no vote.
Oh, I'm sorry, I thought I heard all of your voices. All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed?
Aye.
And so we have the one passage. Thank you.
Thank you.
Just as a note, I don't usually chime into these before your vote, but just a note afterward that this does reflect conversations we've had with our builders for many years who have been really working towards getting some of these modifications into our code, particularly with parking with multi-family units, and it helps them build out a little bit more. One more unit to them makes it profitable. But secondly, the big reason that we're not getting more of these lower, these more affordable multifamily units in here is because it's hard for them to pencil it out. They try to build as big as they can on as small lot as they can so that they get more bang for the square footage. And most of this work in the urban core is subsidized. I sit on the Community Investment Partnership where we have lots of grant monies that we help builders create these affordable housing units, and then they commit to maintaining them at that range for a period of time, and then they can go market. But that's really the only way that builders are getting involved in the urban area. I would see this as a potential for us as well. A builder is able to apply for those monies through that same process and build out here in Yelm, so we can encourage them to do so when they come in and look for permission to build. So, I'm glad that we have these modifications in place. So now we can go to our resolution number 603, which is for the support of the Yelm Community Schools. And prior to reading the resolution, I wondered if Tracy Choate would like to address the council on this.
Good evening, Mayor and Council. My name is Tracy Choate, and I am the chair for the Citizens for Support of Yelm Community Schools. We are here this evening to ask for your support in the replacement levy measure that will be voted on by our community this coming February. This replacement levy will continue to provide essential funding for programs that do not fall under the state-mandated basic education, including special education, athletics, school resource officers, nurses, counselors, and technology programs. Students do not just get sick from 11 to 1 or on a Tuesday. They might have diabetes, Crohn's, or other diseases that require regular help from a school nurse. Another student's parents might be going through a divorce or another disruption at home and need guidance from a counselor. Some students require special education programs that meet their individual needs. Mandated basic education does not fully fund these opportunities for education, mental health, and other support services that we can currently provide to our students. Regarding community outreach, one of the biggest hurdles that we will have to overcome this year is the difference between a levy and a bond. And it is our mission to explain to voters the difference and ensure our students receive the support that they need. Excuse me. We will be putting together videos, social media campaigns to educate the voters on the difference of importance of a levy, and will continue to highlight our community as shown in the recent Christmas in the Park parade. Video. Last year, you as a council unanimously approved a resolution in support of Yelm Community Schools bond, and we truly are grateful for your support. We believe that your support played a big role in passing the first school bond in our community since 2003, which will replace Yelm Middle School, Southworth Elementary, and provide safety improvements to each of the schools in the district. As we get this campaign kicked off into gear, we would love to have you at our campaign kickoff event at Northwest Chevrolet on January 8th. It's going to be at 6:30, and again, I appreciate your time and would love your support of our coming levy.
We also have Superintendent Wharton here tonight, and although he's not going to advocate for the passage of a levy, he's certainly here to answer any questions that you might have relative to it. So between Tracy and Brian, if you have questions. Councilmember Pino?
Thank you. And it might be a superintendent question.
We'll see. I have a lot of useless information in my head, but we'll see what I can do.
I was wondering, what's the increase for property tax for this? What's the levy asking for? And then how big of an impact is it for the school's budget here, or the Yelm School's budget?
Okay, so I can tell you that the levy makes up 12% of the school budget annually. And we are asking for $2.50 per 1,000 value. So it is actually still going to keep us below the threshold that we promised when we ran the bond as far as affecting property taxes.
Is this a replacement levy or is it a new levy?
It is a replacement levy.
What does that mean?
It means that we already have a levy in place. And so it has to be replaced every 4 years, and Brian can go into more details of that if you'd like. But it essentially, it's replacing one that already exists. It's not on top of something that's already in place. And every school district in Thurston County is running a levy
This isn't new to the vote, to the taxpayers, that they're already paying this.
They're already
Like a renewal, okay.
Councilmember Cole?
Yeah, the original, and I'm gonna bring up some weird stuff I might know. The replacement, it's a replacement for 250 because that's what we're capped at. What was the original levy? Because I know it was higher than that, but it got brought down because of the McCleary decision.
Want me to take that?
394.
394. So it's actually lower than the original levy we passed.
The original levy.
By $1.40. Okay, awesome.
It's also important to note that the total levy collection over 4 years will be smaller than the one it's replacing.
Go ahead. Councilmember Pino?
I move to approve resolution number 603, support for Yelm Community Schools levy.
Before I call for the question, would it interest the council to hear the resolution read?
Yes.
Yes.
So we have a motion and a second. Before we vote on it, I will read the resolution as presented to you. Resolution 603 in support of Yelm Community Schools levy. Whereas according to the Yelm History Project, Yelm Community Schools was formed upon a request of a small school district consolidation in 1906. And whereas it serves a total of 192 square miles, including the communities of Yelm, McKenna, Bald Hills, Nisqually Indian Reservation, and parts of Lacey's suburbs. And whereas Citizens for the Support of Yelm Schools was formed in 1997 to provide advocacy and education to families and businesses within Yelm Community Schools boundaries regarding levy and bond information. And whereas the Board of Directors of Yelm Community Schools has approved a levy measure to go to the voters of the district, which boundaries include the city of Yelm. And whereas the state staffing formula only accounts for basic education and does not fully support student needs in Yelm. And whereas levies comprise a smaller portion of a district's total budget, but are still integral for district operations. And whereas special education programs, school resource officers, athletics and activity programs, school counselors, and maintenance and technology programs do not fall under basic education and require levies for support. And whereas voters will be asked to approve a replacement levy to allow students the opportunity to receive counseling when they need someone to talk to, a nurse when they get sick, and special education programs for those with individual needs. And whereas the City of Yelm Comprehensive Plan, updated by the City Council in 2017, includes many goals and policies which support education throughout the community. And whereas the City Council believes the proposed levy measure is necessary to ensure Yelm Community Schools continues to be a leader in preparing our children for the future. Now therefore it be resolved by the City Council of the City of Yelm that voters are encouraged to support the February 11th, 2020 levy measure by voting yes. Approve this day, 10 December 2019. Any further discussion? All in favor? Aye. Any noes? Unanimous. Thank you for your work on this. And we will pass this out for signature to that.
Second one.
Election being 2019. I just they're always doing it. Come in, they talk, leave.
Oh, we got one more.
Go ahead.
Do it.
Like a rebel, EJ.
All right, good work. Now, we have both of our new businesses attended to. We'll go back to our amended agenda. Under old business, we have the 2019-20 mid-biennial amendment, and I will hereby continue the public hearing about this. Is there anybody from the public who would like to ask questions prior to Heidi's presentation? We will have her do her updated presentation, ask again for questions during the public hearing. If there are none, we'll close the public hearing and then move on to council's questions for Heidi.
The Mayor, you have before you that 2019-2020 annual budget amendment. It is essentially the same that was reviewed by the Finance Committee. They are taken for public hearing on the 26th of November, the study session on the 3rd, and then brought forward tonight. The only changes to the amendment that were presented, that was presented on the 26th, was the amendment number. In that original presentation, we had it down as 1050, when truly it is 1050. So ordinance number 1055. The other change that I did today was to include detail that was in the original report but not in the amendment. So I brought that detail to the back of the report, to the back of the ordinance. So if there is no further discussion or any further questions, Ms. Molly?
I did have one question. Since this is for the 19-20 biennial budget, does this include the expenditures that we've made for the interim public safety, or public works director, I'm sorry, and the money that we've spent hiring him as an interim, and any kind of money that we've spent regarding that position? I did get an email from Mayor Foster earlier this week saying that we haven't put it out for public bid yet, and we will be doing that very soon. But I just wanted to know if this budget amendment includes what we've spent for the interim.
It does and it doesn't, because we are still within budget for the salary and wages.
Still within budget for that? Okay, so we wouldn't really need to make that change
We
anyway.
don't need to make any changes at this time.
Okay.
We worked the contract with Steve so that if he has to work like 35.7 hours a week to stay within the range that the Public Works Director would have been making. So we're just like even Steven, unintended, until we move forward.
So he's not making any more than Chad Bedlington was making?
In fact, less in some regards because we're not paying into the benefit structure.
Benefit.
Yeah.
Okay. That's all I needed to know. Thank you.
Are there any questions from, I'm sorry,
No,
Councilmember Pino.
Thank you, Mayor. Your comment kind of had me thinking, how long of a contract is it without an end date for the interim?
Yeah, so we were fortunate enough to attract the right person to this interim position who's in a situation where he can commit to this for as long as we need him. Again, we'll stay within our budgetary guidelines because he's not going to cost us any more than a full-time Public Works Director would. As we go through the hiring process and we find we may end up having to amend our pay scale for that position, in which case we'd come back to the council and if we needed to, depending on when that person got hired, where we would be in the budget amount for that position. Yeah. Okay, if there's no more questions from council and none from the public, I'll close the public hearing on this and then ask the council for action.
We approve ordinance 1055, amending the biennial budget for 2019 to 2020.
Second.
Further discussion? Yes, Councilmember Paul.
Question. I hate to do this.
Now, is it on the motion?
No, it's on the I might have found a math error
You're out
really
of line
quick.
there,
No, I don't think so.
No, that's just, I just want to check. Sorry. So for at the bottom of this, and I don't remember seeing this on the other one, for original budget, you have 80 million. We have the adjustments of 13 million and the revised budget. Is there a reason those numbers aren't lined up? So the original budget with the adjustments does not equal the revised budget?
I'll have to check and see where, if there is an error where it's at, but
Yeah, so right now they don't equal. Original budget adjustments do not equal revised budget, but I didn't see this on the other one, I see this on this.
okay.
So that's,
Something,
and it's only by 10, everybody can go ahead and math. Math. I just know, I was like, this doesn't look right in my head, and so
I'll have to see where it's different from the last
Okay.
one.
it's off by about 10,000. Am I correct?
About 10.
Councilmember Colt, do you consider this,
I just want to make sure there's not, and
She's only off by like $300.
I just want to make sure.
Yeah, let's make sure that that's right.
Okay, is it, can everybody check really, can you check my math?
It's exactly the last amendment.
This one plus this one is like $200 off.
Okay, it is like $200 off.
Yeah.
Okay. You know where that magic 200 is?
And send you.
Okay. I don't think it's super. I just wanted to check because I saw it. Yeah, I mean it was. I just noticed the quick math there.
we appreciate the oversight.
Okay, we're good.
If you're comfortable going forward, though?
Yeah, I'm comfortable with it as long as we find out where it is. I mean, did we buy a gift?
$278.
$278. Yeah.
278.
Or just bring this on you right
I
now.
actually know where that 278 came from. In the original spreadsheet, there was a variation that I couldn't tie down to any of the accounts.
So it's just okay. There you go.
Yeah, it's around.
Rounding error.
It's around. Okay. I have to find one every budget, so that's just my math.
We don't go with rounding errors because we want another clean audit next time.
State comes in the document, there were quite a few discrepancies, and that was the last one.
Yeah. Okay. No worries. That was the only 278. That's pretty dang close. I mean,
It just didn't add up.
yeah. I'm okay with that. As long as that is noted that there is that 278.
And will be attended to.
Okay.
Yeah, the 67 million is correct.
Yeah.
I can't vouch for the first number.
Okay. Thank you.
Motion on the floor and a second to approve. Any further discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
And no opposed, so nicely
much.
done.
Had to get one on you.
Glad you're here, Cody.
I like math.
So why did you become a history teacher?
Because
Not because it paid more.
not gonna pay for
It
it.
doesn't change.
Yeah, you can make it
Eighth
whatever you
grade
want.
math doesn't change.
That changes. They change how you teach math all the time.
Oh.
Yeah.
How you teach it changes.
Yeah. Exactly.
We've now reached that exciting moment in the council agenda where we do department updates. You've heard from two of our departments already, and you received by email an update from City Administrator Graham. And so you had an opportunity to reach out to him. Of course, he's gone for a little bit, but he'll be back shortly, enjoying himself, I hope. And so we'll move on to Council Member E.J. Curry.
Well, I was at Christmas in the Park with the Citizens for Support of Yelm Schools, and we're all supporting the levy. And I was at the Olympia Chamber Orchestra on Sunday. That was fantastic. You were there, and we are so lucky to have Claudia in our community.
Jones, yes.
And I have Fire Commission tomorrow night.
Okay, very good.
Intercity Transit has some very exciting news. For years and years, we've been talking about an option to go zero fare. Basically, what it boils down to is we collect all of our fares as cash, quarters, nickels, dimes, dollar bills. And it takes a really long time if you're getting on the bus to deposit all your change into the machines. The machines themselves literally buy off eBay. They're not making replacements anymore. And what it comes down to is that the fares that we receive are roughly 2% of Intercity Transit's revenue. So the amount that we spend on maintaining the boxes, buying new boxes on eBay or buying new used boxes on eBay, keeping them working, collecting the fares, collecting the change from the boxes every night, counting the change from the box every night, hiring an armored car to take the change to the bank. They literally don't pay for themselves. So it's kind of a negative to even have fares at this point. So what we decided was, since the voters gave intercity transit a mandate back in late August last year to increase the sales tax for intercity transit. We would pay that back to the community by making all fares starting in January 1, 2020 to be zero fares countywide. So everybody's super duper excited. It's going to speed up boarding time. It's going to really make a big impact on those people who really need it the most. There's a statistic that sometimes, roughly 28% of somebody's income could go towards transportation just to and from your job. So if you're spending 28% of your income on transportation, that's taking a huge chunk out of your take-home pay. So this really frees up a lot of money for those people who need it the most, and that's what the sales tax does, is it helps people who need it the most. So we're super duper excited. It's been transformative in cities that have done this already. They've seen riderships increase by 40 to 60%. And so for those of us who don't need to take the bus, imagine that many fewer cars off the road for your everyday commute. It's going to be pretty fantastic. We're super excited about that. So yay! The Community and Economic Development Subcommittee met this last week, and we talked about affordable housing. And we talked about the new laws that Washington State has passed to make it easier for cities to sort of allow like nonprofit builders or, projects that qualify for, certain things to be able to apply for waivers or deferrals in order to move forward with their building projects. So, for example, if Habitat for Humanity came and wanted to build a housing complex in Yelm, they would say, well, we've got the land's okay, but it's these dang fees, it's the sewer hookup fees, it's the transportation mitigation, the impact fees, it's the building fees, it's the city generated fees that really hold a lot of these projects back. So the state has has put in place different regulations for cities to be able to waive those or defer those fees. And so what the committee did was say, let's send it to General Government Committee and have them talk to staff to do a lot of research on how Yelm can do this. Like, how are other cities doing this? And then maybe adopt that language for Yelm so that we can all vote on whether or not we would like to do that. Lastly, I submitted a request to the General Government Committee to develop a procurement policy manual that will clarify language that we already have. It currently only exists in our budget or scattered places around the code. So this will collect all of that stuff into one place. That way we don't have to put it in every single budget from going forward, and it might drop out by accident. So this is going to be a policy manual that's going to be a standalone policy manual that we can use in applying for grants, that we can use when contracting for services or other purchasing. So hopefully they can get that too. Be great. That's all I got.
That was good. Thank you. Councilmember Cole.
I went to the Community of Economic Development, and like Molly said, she said it all, so we took care of that. I think the procurement policy along with the housing adjustment is a good idea, and it's going to come to General Government Committee, and we'll talk about it there. But the biggest thing is it's a waiver system that it doesn't actually take any real money, and I'll discuss that more later. It doesn't take us any money out of our pocket right away. We prove a waiver on a case-by-case basis, which is just the best way to do it. Instead of having a blank check, we just write to everybody. The second thing, General Government Committee was last week also. Always great meetings. We talked, and I'll let you guys talk a little bit about this because I don't have my notes in front of me, but I know we talked about the Unified Development, or the code, sorry, not the Unified Development Code, but our code in general and just updating it, getting things up to date. Also, our council retreat and figuring out, locking down a date and when we can do that and what we're going to do and how it's going to look. And then also, I believe that was it, and they'll come up with anything else. Public Works is this Thursday, and the Medic 1 meeting got canceled for December, so I will not be attending that next week. That is our meetings. Wow.
Thank you. All right, where do we start? General Governance Committee, one other thing that we are going to start discussing is we don't have any military leave policies for the city. And I think that's a really critical piece that we need to probably address before we end up with somebody that's on staff, for example, that is called to duty if they're in the reserves or National Guard. So we're going to work on that. It's going to take some time because the span of those benefits are huge. So to narrow it down and suggest to the council, it's going to be tough. I attended the Yelm University. I don't want to take anybody's thunder, but it was really, really good. I learned a lot. It was a great group of people. The presentation was amazing. I thought it went really well. So I'm looking forward to more of those, and hopefully we can get more people out. I don't know what the trick is. It was really good information. So good questions, good dialogue, and the material was easy to understand even for me, which is good. And then tomorrow I have emergency management with Chief Stansel, and I just want to quickly.
I'm sorry.
Oh,
That's been canceled.
well, good. That's great. glad you mentioned that. 'Cause it's on my calendar. So I want to mention that tonight is Councilmember Curry's last meeting, and it's been a true joy. And I can say that you have brought a tremendous a wealth of knowledge and guidance in just our short time working together. And I just really, really wish you the best. And it's been really, really good. So I thank you for helping us all, and hopefully, I know we will see you around.
Sure.
You don't sit still long enough not to volunteer on all these boards that we have. But thank you. Thank you, and we will continue to work together, I'm sure, in one capacity.
Thanks.
That's all I have.
Very good. Councilmember Wood?
I attended the TCOM Emergency 911 meeting, and as we all know, the voters also approved a 1% increase in the sales tax for us to fortunately get up to speed to where we can communicate with our neighbors in Pierce County who are on a digital system and we're on an analog system. So we hit the ground running, and we're making plans and figuring out our pathway forward so we can get this thing where it needs to be as quickly as possible. Also attended Christmas in the Park. It was phenomenal how many people turn out. I mean, I don't know where all these people come from, but there was definitely, it was pretty cool to see, even with the weather as it was. And I'd also like to thank Councilmember Curry for the time that she spent with us. Councilmember Curry and I were friends prior to, and will remain friends long after both of us have left this arena. And once again, I do thank you. And that's my report.
I'd like to ask you a question. If put on your Mr. Doug's hat for a minute. We do appreciate the support Mr. Doug's has given to Christmas in the Park over the years. How many hot dogs did you go through this year?
Well, we went through about 2,500 this year, which I think is pretty good. The rain, I think, kept us from hitting our goal of 3,000, but
Which is what we hit last year.
well, unfortunately, last year there was a bit of an issue with the buns, as you recall.
Out of buns.
The Friends folks miscounted on the buns, and
We were double stuffing some of those hot dogs.
but, we'll take another swing at it next year and hit our 3,000 mark.
Thank you very much. My pleasure. Councilmember DePino?
Thank you, Mayor. I just want to continue the sentiment regarding Councilmember E.J. Curry. I've gotten nowhere on the Finance Committee, and she's a strong voice on there, and also for the Fire Authority as well. She's very passionate about that. Probably the biggest thing, in my view, is she's been a real champion for the senior center and the seniors here in Yelm. And so I think there's going to be a void with that voice gone. But hopefully we can pick up.
I'm still on that board.
I think you repped him well on the council, though. So thank you for that, and I'm sure they appreciate your voice as well on the council. Besides that, though, went to the Regional Economic Forecast Innovation Expo, which State was a part of. I know Mayor Foster is going to talk more about that. So I'll just be brief about what I did, which was help out with the study booth, the South Thurston Economic Development Initiative, all these acronyms, long names. But one of the things I appreciate about that was being able to chat with Thurston County Commissioner Gary Edwards, and not only on his perspective on economic development in Thurston County, but also regarding his no vote on the Thurston County Courthouse. And he said he would love to come and chat to the council regarding his position on it in January if there's time and if the council so wishes to hear it. I think that would be worthwhile. Lastly, I was wondering regarding the 640 acres, we're coming up pretty close on that on the 29th. And I was wondering if there's any updates or discussions regarding it.
Did you not read the email from Michael Graham?
I did not see that one, no, sorry.
So Michael Graham's update to council this week talks specifically about that. And once again, the DDD organization that has we have the deed in lieu of trust for that 640 acres, has up until December 31st to, or it's not the 31st, it's like the 27th or something, to take claim of that property again. Once that works out and we know where we are on that property would be talked about in an executive session as a real estate transaction, potentially. But yeah, it's definitely on our agenda for the first of the year.
Okay, so there's no conversations going about what to do with it or anything?
We can't do that until we know where it's going to land. Totally up to the owners right now.
That's good. Thank you.
You're welcome.
And that's it.
Councilmember Kaminsky?
Well, I was on the EDC meeting with Council Molly and Colt, and they've covered everything very nicely. And also, same with EJ, being the baby on the council,
We'll play duet.
you were one of the only ones that really reached out to me and made me feel very, very welcome. You're probably the only one I didn't really know, but got to know you over all the wine you treated me to. Thank you, EJ. We will do the Toronto thing. Other than that, I'm sorry I missed the thing in the park. And at 4 o'clock, I came back into Yelm and I thought, well, I'm sure this is over. And I drove by the main road and the place was packed. I was like, wow, it looked tremendous. And I did attend the chamber lunch today, the year-end luncheon, where the business awards were given out. It was just a very warm, beautiful afternoon, and all the people at my table were holding back the tears from the choir, which was just, they surrounded us in the room and sang some beautiful Christmas carols. It was like surround sound. And we were all sniffling. It was so beautiful. And I heard one of the kids behind me go, she was looking up and she's like, I love the acoustics in this building. I love singing here. And it was really cool. So it was just a very nice afternoon. Saw you there. That's it.
Well, and I do want to just remark on that because that's not the first time we've heard that. The Yelm Community Center was not designed as an auditorium for sound. It just happily turns out to be an incredibly acoustically favorable venue. We're hearing this from the choirs like this, but also the Olympia Chamber Orchestra, who's been out here and played twice. The orchestra members love the sound, the way it resonates in there. The orchestra can hear themselves, which is really important when you're trying to make beautiful music. So yeah, that's kind of a happy coincidence that we ended up with a great sound in there. Thanks for bringing that up. So, before you are roses. You'll notice that there's no mistake because there's a little note on it who that's from. Councilmember E.J. Curry went to the trouble to present a rose to every staff member in the city of Yelm, including council, to thank them because, as she said, she couldn't do what she does on the council without support from staff. And she has been consistently over the years, even before she was on council, so supportive of staff members, as we all should be. But she really shows it in her actions and her words. Don't look at me.
You are in a lot of...
Don't make eye contact.
I'm rolling my eyes at you.
Yeah, well, you know this is true. Most of us have known EJ for a long time. I've certainly known her since the whole time I've lived here, since she's my neighbor right behind me. And the one thing that I can say most about EJ is that of all the council members here, you all have in turn, at one point or another, entrusted EJ with your opinions and felt comfortable in doing so. And that's not to say that we don't all get along. We do. We've done some great work together as unit. But everybody feels comfortable talking to EJ. EJ represented the city in a historical way because she's lived here all her life, or not yet, but she's working on it. And,
I'm not going anywhere.
no, you're not. And she's always just been very thoughtful, and we appreciate not just the work she does here, but she's been one of the best of us in maintaining her commitment to the regional representation of Yelm, and is always welcomed at those regional meetings because of what she brings to them, not just Yelm's perspective, but a citizen's perspective. So, and I honestly could go on and on, but I just want to say
A little longer.
thank you.
Tracy, that's enough.
And don't go far, because I think
Well, I
you'll.
can't go far, you're in front of me.
I know. I think we'll need you again. And hopefully that we'll see you, if not on a board, maybe even back behind this table at one point in time. So thank you so much.
You're welcome.
Could we all give her a little? I should have had the choir come in for that. So, my report. On the 5th, I did indeed attend the Economic Forecast and Innovation Expo put on by the combined Economic Development Councils of the 5 counties around us. The morning was full of some really good breakout sessions, as varied as how the brewing industry has developed into a significant employer, an economic driver in South Thurston County, to the historical of the title of this presentation was, which came first, the chicken or the oyster? And Bill Taylor and J.T. Wilcox were up there talking about how 4 and 5 generations of those families have maintained an agricultural industry in Thurston County. So demonstrated how you can maintain that through some really volatile changes in our economy. That was interesting. The main speaker was Dr. Bill Connerly, an economist, who actually made economic forecasting fun. He had some good stories. And my main takeaway from his talk was every economist is asked to forecast when the next adjustment to our economy will happen. When's the next recession? And he showed up a bunch of graphs and things and said, you know, nobody can really predict this, but when you look historically, it's kind of like we know when the next earthquake is coming. Well, we know when's coming. We just don't know exactly when, but statistically, we know it's in the next couple of 100 years. Similarly, we know when a recession has to come in these economies. It's the way they work. They call them adjustments or come up with some other euphemism for them, but they are a slowdown. And we have about a 30% chance of going into a recession in the next 18 months. How long, how severe is unpredictable. But his takeaway statement was, we as businesses, and he was talking to, you know, that general concept of a business, and we are a business, the city of Yelm, needs to be prepared in 2 ways. One is to be prepared for the recession when it comes, so don't overspend yourself and your budgets. And in a similar way, don't get too excited when things are going really well. A lot of businesses have done poorly because they've been too successful in the early years, and so they expand too quickly, and then when the slowdown comes, they don't have the capacity. We as a city take the lesson from that to say, let's not get ahead of our skis in budgeting and hiring and doing too much that we can't find sustainable. So that was the main takeaway from his talk. It was very well put. The 5th also, we had, of course, as Molly mentioned, the Yelm University, and Tad mentioned, it was really nice to see some council members there. I admit learning some things from Heidi that night, and from Steve and from Pat from the community, from Public Works on the water cycle. Very interesting information. We got great feedback from the 12 citizens who were there. We had about 20 people there, but the other 8 were staff and council members. And the feedback that we got was so positive that we do intend to move forward with this. We'll debrief on the good and the bad, and we'll build out, so 4 semesters, so to speak, every year will be a repeat so that, and we'll fine tune it and hone it and put in new information as necessary. But we think it's a really great way to reach out to our citizens and provide knowledge, which, as I described before, is the most valuable currency we have in our society. On the, and I can't close that out without saying, again, enormous thanks to Grant Beck in particular, and to Andrew, and to Heidi, and Public Works team who put these presentations together with a fairly short amount of time, and they were great. So thanks to staff. On the 6th, I attended the Thurston Regional Planning Council meeting. I am now the acting chair of that council, as our chair, Nathaniel, had lost his race for mayor in Olympia, which removed him from council as well, Nathaniel Jones. So as vice chair, I move up to the chair position and will probably continue that role into the next year. Our main thing there, that meeting, was a transportation update. That same update will be coming to council at our January study session by the TRPC. On the 6th, I attended the monthly Mayor's Forum. 7th, I went to the Christmas in the Park, of course, and kudos to our staff. Our police department, along with our regional partners, the sheriffs were there. We had a lot of buy-in. We had the cadets. We had so many people there. Fire department was there making sure our streets was safe. We had very little issues with detours and with citizens having a problem getting around. It went very well. Public Works team did a fantastic job of setting the park up with all the lights and maintaining the park. The next morning I walked down there, you couldn't find a piece of trash. The bathrooms, we have an issue with the outside bathrooms. We're going to deal with that in a couple of different ways, but otherwise, Christmas in the Park was fantastic. Our community development team puts on the pictures with Santa, and flawless. Grant Beck said, big smile on his face, I have worked myself out of a job because his staff did such a wonderful job, and even their families came in and were part of the elf team that got the pictures for people. And over again, you kept hearing people go, this is all free? Yeah, and rarely will you find another community that can put on an event of that size, with that amount of public support from our businesses, that we can provide that free for all of our citizens. It was pretty cool. Took a break from that, listening to the music, and went out to the Sergeant Aaron Boyle family key ceremony just outside the city limits, where Homes for Our Troops gave him and his family the key to their new custom home to accommodate his severe injuries he received fighting in Afghanistan. Very touching moment. And again, I'll just say that the executive from Homes for Our Troops who was there said that the Yelm community, greater community, turned out in numbers they have never seen before for either the landscaping and the key ceremony supporting this family. So a great testament to the Yelm community for supporting one of our soldiers. On the 8th, again, I mentioned the chamber concert that was here, really well attended. We had 120 people show up from the community, and we had 65 members of the orchestra and choir that were in there. So that, we ran out of chairs. It was literally standing room only at our community center. Very well received.
Oh, just curious, how is it with the parking at these events? Have you had any complaints, or is everybody?
I don't know where they park.
So there's no issues?
No, it's, people come.
Park up and down our streets, there's plenty of.
They do, they just park.
Plenty of street side parking, yeah.
I noticed people walking into, after the event, I saw people walking through Cochran Park, and people, you can walk pretty much through Yelm safely on our sidewalks. Got to keep your eyes down because there's some uplifts here and there, but there are a lot of walkers. There were people who came in by bus. The specialty bus like the Furs came down from Lacey to attend the concert. And so, yeah, I've not heard anybody say, gosh, I couldn't find a place to park. They find it and walk in. Prairie Days, we did have one driveway get blocked, and we took care of it very quickly, and that was the only issue. So, yeah, nice to hear. On the 9th, I spent a considerable amount of time with the executive of the Olympia Visitor and Convention Bureau, Olympia and Beyond, helping her understand that we are the why in Beyond. And we found a way to be more collaborative between that organization, Yelm Chamber, Thurston Chamber, in promoting and supporting Yelm businesses and events. And then, of course, today we had the Yelm Chamber meeting, which was the Business Awards, and many of our local businesses were called out. In fact, the Crow Law Building was runner-up to one of the awards. That was for beautification of the building, I believe, wasn't it? Yeah, very cool. And Mr. Duggs, what did you receive the award for?
The Legacy Award.
The Legacy Award.
Yeah, which it's for businesses that have been in Yelm for 20 years or longer.
Yep.
So we can take credit for about the last 6 years of that. We can thank the Camerons for the previous years. Doug's has been here in the community.
Well, it was great representation. Again, the chamber, the community center was completely full, standing room only from the support of the businesses. It's a great, and then of course the choir that sang was a great way to start that out. My gosh. And Terry, weren't you in there for something? You were nominated for something.
Well, I was nominated for the Faithfuller Award that Tracy won.
That Tracy won.
Yeah. But I did bring the cupcakes.
You did bring cupcakes.
We did. They were amazing. They were truly amazing.
Swung to those.
Thank you. It is the last council meeting of the year. Don't do it yet.
He's abdicated
I've already, yeah.
Oh, has he? Oh, that's why.
Yeah.
I just have two more things to say, very quick. Coming up on the 13th, this Friday, we have our annual Thanksmas celebration where we bring all the staff that can come into the community center for a luncheon that we prepare for them. We hand out longevity awards, and we have some music, and we have a lot of fun. It's a great opportunity for you to come in and mingle with some of our staff in a social setting and just say thank you. And then
When was that again?
it's Friday, starting at
It's noon.
noon.
Starting
1:30.
noon. Got it.
Bring your appetite.
Okay.
And so city offices throughout the city will be closed from 12 to 1:30, so all of our on-duty staff can take advantage of that. And there is plenty of food. Please bring a friend and enjoy. And then as a favor to this group, the 25th annual Community Christmas Concert will be held on the 15th at the LDS Church on Clark Road, starting at 7 p.m. 10 different faith organizations come together to sing various Christmas music and play instrumental music. It's a really nice evening to get you in the spirit. And that's all I have. EJ, do you have something you'd like to say?
Nope, just everybody.
And
Move to adjourn.
second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Thank you all. Thank you, staff.
Thank you for the rose.
Yes, thank you for the vote.
And if council will please stick around, we have one other little off-duty business. I'll give them the signal.
I didn't. It was here when I got there. Do you want recording? I don't know that. I was thinking it's mine. I'm going to give it to you.